Have you ever set a goal but failed to achieve it?
Have you ever had a great idea, but no clear way to put it into action?
Have you ever been a part of a group of smart people but felt like you were meandering and had no clear sense of direction?
If you've been in a situation like this, you know how frustrating it can be. You feel like you're not accomplishing anything, you're wasting your time, and you're being ineffective.
This lack of direction can lead to disengagement, it can lead to anxiety, and a loss of productivity. It also leaves you feeling unfulfilled.
This is a common problem for organizations. Studies show that less than a third of employees feel engaged in their workplace. So what can companies do to combat this employee engagement crisis?
Well, setting goals helps out with the engagement, but sometimes it's not really quite enough.
Organizations need to use a goal management system to inspire and align their employees.
Hi, I'm David Engfer.
And I'm Ellen Robinson, and we aim to teach you about a proven effective system for setting and managing goals, OKRs. It's a simple way to set, track, and communicate goals across a group of people.
OKR. It simply stands for Objectives and Key Results. It's a goal management framework initially created by Intel in the 1970s. John Doerr was one of the initial founding people on that team that developed the OKR framework. However, it was not popularized until the early 2000s by Google. Google found great use out of this framework, and its popularity caused many other Silicon Valley companies to follow in suit, like Amazon, LinkedIn, and even Facebook. Today, all sorts of companies and organizations use it, from corporations to nonprofits, to even we found some musicians that actually use it.
So let's go back and talk about Google. Google is by far the most successful and experienced company using OKRs today. They've been using them for close to 20 years now. One example of how they used OKRs to achieve success is when they launched the Chrome web browser in 2008. So the VP of product management at the time, who has now gone on to become the current CEO, set a goal that by the end of Chrome's first year, it would have 20 million active daily users. At the end of 2008, they failed to hit this goal. So in 2009, they doubled down and went for 50 million active daily users. And once again, Google failed to hit this goal. In 2010, they aimed for 100 million active daily users and finally surpassed their goal, getting to 110 million users. Now, we all know that Chrome is by far the most popular web browser out there, and today, on their mobile platform alone, they have more than 1 billion active daily users. Google's leadership credits OKRs with this success because they were able to create ambitious and meaningful goals, and they were able to align everyone at the company to a common purpose. This was a huge win for Google. So let's look at the details of the OKR system that got them there.
OKR is a relatively simple, straightforward framework. It starts by defining 3 to 5 qualitative objectives. Each one of those objectives are in turn paired with 3 to 5 quantitative key results. The distinction between qualitative and quantitative is very important here between the objectives and key results, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. The other interesting distinction here is with the amount of 3 to 5. That just ends up being the magical number where you have effective goals, but it's still rememberable by human beings. So let's take a look at an actual example. We all are probably familiar with Uber, but might not be as familiar with Uber's business growth model. David Sachs, a famous venture capitalist, drew on the back of a napkin a very clear articulation of Uber's growth cycle. The growth cycle starts by having more drivers in the system, which will lead to more geographic coverage, which then in turn leads to faster pickup times. Pair that along with cheaper rides, and you get more customers and more demand, which then requires more drivers, more geos, et cetera, et cetera. The cycle was critical to Uber's growth. But how would you convert this generic cycle into something that's a little bit more actionable? Well, let's translate some of these into OKRs.
So the first thing that Uber would want to do to drive forward the strategy you saw on that napkin is set some company-level objectives. These are going to be things that they want to achieve. Things like serve more customers, or increase drivers in the system, or increase driver satisfaction. You'll notice that these three objectives are qualitative, and there's no number or metric associated with them. They are meant to inspire the people working on them, and they're meant to set context for the key results that get paired with them. They're telling Uber, this is where you want to go, but they're not saying how to get there. To look at how they can get there, let's look at key results.
If we take that first objective of serving more customers, we can define some key results. Before I dive into the key results, though, you'll see at the very top a time and organizational context. Again, those are very important, but we will show here in just a moment why they are important. For the time being, we'll just dive straight into generating some key results. The first key result that we'll generate is increasing coverage of San Francisco to 100%. We'll then increase coverage for all active regions to 75%. We're then going to decrease the customer pickup time to less than 10 minutes in any coverage area during peak hours. You'll notice here that the key results defined are quantitative in nature. That means they have metrics and they're very measurable. The key results here discuss the how, whereas the objectives tie back to the why. You'll know that you have achieved the objective when you achieve the underlying key results.
So when you are implementing OKRs at a company, there's a couple ways you can go about it. And I'm going to describe to you one that's highly recommended. The first step would be to set a large yearly goal at the company level. The leadership of the company can then distribute this down to departments, who will then distribute it down to their teams. At lower levels, like departments and teams, it's best to set a smaller quarterly goal. So once everyone in the organization has set their OKRs, it's time to start the OKR cycle and begin executing on them. During these cycles, it's important to have regular check-ins, whether it's weekly or monthly, to make sure that everyone is on track and working on the right things. At the end of the cycle, there's a very important step where you review your progress. So you can use those numbers that you saw in key results to actually apply a numeric grade to how you did, from 0 to 100. Using how you did on your current set of OKRs is very important inputs for your next set of OKRs. So you will just repeat this cycle over and over, reaching for bigger and bigger goals each time. So now let's look at an example of how we can set these goals at different levels of an organization.
To illustrate the cascading nature or benefit of OKRs, we'll first start at that company level where we think of that 1-year horizon. We're going to serve more customers. Well, the rest of the organization might use that as an input into their own OKR and goal-setting processes. So down at the driver engineering department, we might use a key result from the company and decrease pickup time through algorithm optimization with our own key results, from decreasing route calculation time by 50%, or expanding the algorithm team by 10 people. Even further, the maps and routes team, we're going to align to everybody else by creating fast, high-quality code, by increasing unit test code coverage to 90% and having 0 critical defects. The example here is meant to illustrate the organizational alignment capability that is offered by OKRs, if you choose to use it. However, this should not be used absolutely rigidly. It should not be created by the company and set top-down, nor bottom-up. The goal here is to allow for input from all the different levels of the organization to be an influence into the goal-setting process. This allows each unit and team to define their own goals, allowing the autonomy, creativity, and flexibility they need.
So now that we've learned about how OKRs come together, let me share with you some tips on how you can write effective OKRs. The first tip, and to me the most important, is that they need to be ambitious. They should be challenging and they should be inspirational. Just like the story I told you about Google, where they increased their goal year over year, you want to do something like that. So you want to be careful because you don't want to make them unattainable, where people can never hit them and they feel discouraged. And you need to just figure out what works best for your group and how far they want to stretch. The second thing is that they should be outcome-based. As we shared before, the key results will always have a number in them. So you can always say, did we hit this key result, yes or no, when it comes to the review time? Thirdly, they should be time-bound. So we did recommend earlier a yearly, quarterly schedule, but we are on all different sizes of teams, so you can figure out based on the size of your goal and the size of your team what time frame works for you.
We also want to make good OKRs very transparent. We want to share them throughout the organization. It shows commitment throughout the organization, and it garners support. It allows each group in the entire organization to understand everybody else's goals. We also want to make sure there's that alignment that we had talked about previously. Mostly, we want to make sure that there's enough to get everyone moving in the same direction, but still allow for that freedom and creativity in goal setting. And finally, for individual performance, you don't want to use OKRs. The main reason here is that it inhibits that individual autonomy, and it also causes sandbagging.
So if you're brand new to OKRs and you're an organization that is not using them at all, how do you get started? The first step we recommend is doing some kind of ideation session. And we think the best way to do this is through a group brainstorming activity. So there's lots of options out there for ways that you can get these ideas through brainstorming, but the idea here is that you want to get things out of people's head and onto paper and shared with the group. It can be really hard for people day to day to think creatively and to think in the abstract, but what you want to do is make them do something interactive so that they're being forced to envision the future.
I'd like to zero in on a particular effective exercise that we use quite often. It's called Predict Next Year's Headlines. The purpose of the exercise is to get a group of people together and ask them, if there was a newspaper article written about your organization, team, or product at the end of the next year, what would that sensational headline be? The goal is to get people to think in that time context of whatever you're going to set for your OKR time. This allows people to think in that abstract thought that Ellen was talking about, and allows for that creativity and using the parts of the brain that you don't normally utilize. We've used this many circumstances, and this particular example shown was run with the Parveda Dallas Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Group. Some of the example headlines that came out of the exercise was Parveda partners with Girl Scouts to create a groundbreaking AI/ML training program for the next generation engineers. Many thin mints eaten in the process. Another example of a headline that came out is a little bit more tangible. As an example, they wanted to be able to conduct 5 AI/ML opportunities or POCs. These will translate really well into key results. You'll get a mixture of all of these. The exercise itself, if you're a facilitator, it does require you to give some of those starter headlines to the customers and clients or even the groups so that you get those creativity and the other aspects flowing.
So the next thing you want to do after your brainstorming session is some kind of synthesis. Coming out of an activity like next year's headlines, you will have a long list of ideas, hopefully. So the next step would be to group these and find common themes among your ideas. After you have some common themes identified, the next step would be to prioritize them, because you need to know what's important to the group to work on. A really easy way to do this is simply have everyone vote on what's important to them, and whatever items come out on top will translate directly into your OKRs.
To make this more practical, let's go back to the next year's headlines. So we will take all the headlines that you generated, and they'll naturally group them into themes. Those themes themselves will materialize into clear objectives. So you'll create those qualitative objectives. Then the headlines need to be retooled to make them more quantitative in nature and make sure they're more as key results. You'll then, as a group, go through that prioritization and debate to make sure that you pick the right key metrics for the time context of what you're trying to set. OKRs, we've seen, be effective in many different circumstances, beyond just the ones we've discussed. You can be effective in account planning, in product development, in special interest groups, and even personal growth. As an example for account planning, you might seek to set an objective of proactively delivering thought leadership to the client and customer. One of the key results underneath there might be deliver 5 new ideas per quarter. In the small group setting, we're not just talking about work-related special interest groups. You can use it for Little League teams or even for religious small groups.
And our point here is that you don't have to be at a well-organized company where there's overarching company-level OKRs to implement this. You can implement them on any small team or any small project that you're working on. And we've also had a lot of success when we get our client involved and get them invested in the success of the project that we're working on. So I do also want to point out that OKRs is not the only goal-setting framework out there. There are lots of other tools that you can use. A lot of companies use KPIs, they use balanced scorecards, or management by objectives. At Paraveda, we have a few of our own tools. We use DROP for our individual career development plans, and we also use the model market estimation tool to do some financial goal setting. So any of these can be effective, and companies have had lots of success with using different tools as well. But we do think it's important to share OKRs because they're great in situations where there's a lot of ambiguity and you just need a simple and straightforward way to get everyone thinking about something that's aspirational and visionary. So, if you're looking for more information on OKRs, as you already know, Google is not just the most successful company using them, it is also your best resource, and there's a ton of things out there.
Besides just telling you to Google it, the actual recommendations that we'd provide is reading John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters, in addition to visiting his website. His website has a plethora of information, as well as some great case studies and use cases. You should also check out the Google Startup Labs workshop video on the fundamentals and history of OKR. Within Paraveda, we have some great internal resources to help us go run some of these ideation and OKR workshops at our clients.
So hopefully we've shown you that objectives and key results is a proven system that not only ensures that you meet your goals, but it also ensures that the people working on them feel aligned, they feel engaged, and at the end of the day, they feel fulfilled. Everyone wants to accomplish great things, but it starts with great goals. So next time you're with a group of people and you have an idea and you don't know what to do next, try OKRs. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of FinFest.
Thank you.